On today's show, Ben Pfeifer is back to discuss the NBA draft. It's part 2 of a 2-part conversation, and it's coming up right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 2182 of the Locked On Hawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Rowland, coming to you on a Monday evening into Tuesday. And today's episode is sponsored by folks at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And I'm back today with my good friend Ben Pfeifer, who's joining me for part 2 of a 2-part conversation. So if you missed it, stop right here. Part 1's available in the same podcast feed right now. So I recommend strongly beginning with part 1 and then coming back for part 2 at the end of that conversation. But we're talking about the NBA draft here. It's March. Basketball is ramping up in the college space, which of course means it's prime NBA draft season and a lot to talk about. So part 1's available right now. Here we go with part 2 with myself and Ben Pfeifer. I want to go away from the top 3 because we could spend all day on those guys. We don't have all day, even though we could talk, I could talk for hours about this stuff. Podcast constraints are what they are. But I actually want to go talk about the guards for a little bit, almost group them together, because I find, number one, there are a lot of them in that like consensus lottery range. And because, we don't talk about this on this podcast, but there is a growing fight in Hawks land about whether they need another guard or not. I think they do, but it's like how much of a dire priority is it is kind of a thing.
How badly, I guess, do you need it?
Right, and also what kind of. Also, these guys are very different kind of players. So
I think that's the great thing. It's like there's so like whatever you need, there's probably going to be a flavor of guard that works.
I kind of agree. I mean, this is not in any order other than Flemings. I'll say him first because I think he's my favorite of this group. At Kingston Flemings, you got Keaton Wagler, who's the late riser we talked about. You got Michael Brown, you got LeBaron Philon, Darius Acuff has huge fans. I know there's even like Tyler Tanner fans on the internet. That's a little bit lower, for example, on most boards. Bennett Sturts has big fans around the league. Am I missing anybody right now? Christian Anderson. There's a million of these guys. If you want to talk about Braden Burries, I was going to say he's on the list. Not quite.
I don't even know if you said Michael. You say Michael Brown?
I might have. I meant to if I didn't. So I
think that's about all of my guards that are.
There's so, but to your point, there's so many.
Even
of them.
Beyond those guys, there are guards that I like though. So
yeah, I mean, and the Hawks have 2 picks too, so maybe they go back with the Cavs pick in the 20s, take guard, whatever that looks like. Do you think any of these guys is like in their own group, or do you have like, for instance, I've seen Flemings kind of like mid-season became like almost a consensus number 5. Not consensus, but you know what I mean? Like he's probably the most prominently listed number 5 on boards. If it's like the big 3, Caleb Wilson, it's a lot of Flemings at 5, which I think is fine. He's really good.
After the big 3, I have Caleb, Kingston, and Michael Brown in a tier. So I guess I prefer Kingston to Michael, but I understand. I go back and forth on whether or not I think Michael and Kingston are in the same tier. Because I think Kingston is just like has the rim pressure ability and defensive upside that I'm not sure Michael does. Though Michael has been defending better as of late. But again, I think those two have legit size. Like Michael especially is going to measure tall and long. Kingston's like 6'2", 6'3", super athletic, and both are to me like phenomenal lead guard initiator bets. Michael probably has more off-ball upside theoretically just because of how good of a spot up and just general shooter he is. And Flemings' 3-point shooting is probably like the biggest like macro level concern. I don't think he has like the most refined handle in the world, but with his speed, it's not like that's a prerequisite or anything. But both of these guys are unbelievable live dribble passers. Flemings is a much better vertical athlete, which I think is obviously going to help him quite a bit. I mean, they're both awesome. And I think those are the two that I like as like the real blue chip lead guard prospects with hat tip to LeBaron Philon and Keaton Wagler in that next tier for me. But yeah, I think Michael just like fewer surefire ways to achieve star ceilings on the ball than rim pressure, elite lateral passing, and pull-up shooting. And Michael has improved enough as a rim pressure threat this year. I think he's gotten quicker. He's gotten stronger. He's been effective getting downhill. He draws a bunch of fouls. He's physical. He and Kingston, I think, have a lot, like they both need to decel more, figure out how to like slow down and best weaponize their tools and abilities. But yeah, I think I prefer Kingston. And like I said, I definitely prefer Kingston. And I go back and forth on whether or not I think it's like a tier jump or not. But regardless, I think he and Michael Brown are both excellent players.
Yeah, I prefer Flemings as well. I've come around a lot during the season on Michael Brown, and I'm really intrigued by him. I think that in a lot of drafts, he'd be a clear like top 5 guy, and this draft happens to be loaded. I think, he's a little bit older. I think he'll be I think he'll be 20 at the draft.
20.2 on draft night. Kingston 19.5. So 7.
That's not not a huge gap, but I mean, for more than a year older than Boozer, for example, different position, but notable anyway. But no, I think that Brown's just like, when he looks good, man, it looks scary. Like he had that game where he had 10 threes, which, whatever, but the fact that he can do that is very helpful.
And he was also awesome on defense in that game, which is
cool. I think, and you mentioned it briefly already, but all of these guys, with the potential exception of Acuff, who I'm lower on, I think you are too, from what I've seen. I think they can all be pretty good defenders, and that's appealing, especially, again, going back to the Hawks a little bit. I think without Ansi ever announcing this publicly, I think we saw the way they handled Trey, that they really do not want, if they can help it, to have a small defensively deficient guard on their roster that they have to be. I shouldn't say on the roster, as a core piece. Because right now they have McCollum, they could do that.
That definitely makes me think Kingston. Then
but even Michael like has enough size where like I think he can be fine. I mean, it's not going to be.
For sure.
And
Kingston, I think, has the chance to be like a legit game changer on defense at his ceiling in the way that Michael, Phylon, these guys probably don't.
I agree, but they also. I mean, from a Hawks standpoint, they actually don't need that either. Like, they don't. I mean, it's helpful, but when you have Dyson Daniels and Nikhil, you don't necessarily have to have that. It's just more like, I think the ideal version of the Hawks team is they just don't want to have to deal with the guy they have to hide all the time anymore. Sure. And there's not a lot of those guys in this draft, which is pretty helpful at that position.
But you know what? A lot of those guys that you have to hide are also the guys who can dribble and create.
Fair, and that's it's hard to build your team. It's really hard. Team building is hard. It's worth reminding everybody of that all the time. It's like it's really hard to build the exact way you want to. So I would say it's about stars too. It's like you can't pick who your star is. Like you get a star and you have to kind of deal with what that star can and can't do. Of course, I just covered Trey for almost a decade or whatever, and that was a very, very distinct way of doing it. But different kinds of stars around the league, you kind of just have what you have. I'm big up Flemings. I'm with you, Flemings and Brown. I know you've always been a LeBaron Phylon guy, so I want to let you talk about him for a second because I feel like you are higher on him than anyone that I know. I don't mean that derogatory. I like Phylon as well. He had a great game. Was it this last weekend? He had a great game to kind of lead them back.
He had he came off the bench against Tennessee.
Which was why did that happen? I missed that.
He missed a game against Mississippi State, and I assume it was just like load managing, minute restriction type things. But he had a good quote about it after the game where he was like, "Yeah, I asked for that. Like I wanted that. Like I wanted to make that kind of like not everyone can, Basically, he's like, I'm not like all those other stars who don't want to sit on the bench and be a role player, and like." I think he's right. I believe him. Last year he was a sick role player for a sick Alabama team that was a tournament team. Obviously.
Well, he was probably the best returner last year. Was he the highest guy on your board that came back last year?
Not counting Quaintance because he's kind of a different.
He was.
He was returner one entering for me. I think I got cold feet for a second at the end, but then Phylon literally immediately was like, "Oh yeah, I got better at all of the things I needed to get better at." Like He improved his off-dribble shooting a ton. It's just three-point shooting overall from 31% on 124 attempts all of last season to 38.6% on 153 attempts in 10 fewer games so far. And a lot of those are off the dribble. A lot of those are step backs behind the backs, decelerating to create separation. And he was like a connector, point of attack defender, playmaker guard last year. And he's a full-fledged on-ball initiator. Another one of the shocking amount of like 30 usage, 60 true shooting underclassmen in this draft. And that is like a club that basically, it's like Ja did that, like Michael Beasley did that. There are not a lot of names, but Phylon, while his defense is interesting to me because I think his defense this season to me has been truly atrocious, but it's been so much better in the past. And
right. It's
Alabama's
weird.
defensive rosters are always awful. He doesn't really have a rim protector. They had to go like pick up a G League player to block shots for him.
And I remember last year, I think he was almost playing a defense first role. I mean, he had Mark Sears, and it was a different role entirely.
He wasn't like perfect last year, but I think he, his steal rate was significantly higher last year. His block rate was significantly higher last year. I think part of that, is just the role and the usage offensively. The effort level to me is just not as high, but I don't see this as a super long-term concern. And Phylon to me is that level offensively where he doesn't have like the S tier first step, or like the vertical athleticism and strength are the biggest concerns. Like he is, even considering he's bulked up and gotten more functionally strong, and his foul drawing numbers skyrocketed this year compared to last year, he just is never going to be a crazy, like physically imposing player, but has a good case for like the best handle stop start in the entire draft. Really, really good pacing in the pick and roll. I think he's a very good passer as well, even if not the level as like a Kingston or a Michael as a playmaker. But yeah, I mean, every once in a while, like he'll remind you who he is on defense. Like I remember in the Arizona game, I think he got like switched onto Koa in the post and he blocked his shot. I'm like, oh, I remember that you can do
little flash.
Like, but yeah, I mean, his like, footwork, change of speed, handle, like I think he has deadly pick and roll guard ability while having a long history of being an accomplished off-ball complementary player. Not only like at Alabama, he played at Link Academy with a bunch of good players. He played for Team That, I think, and AAU always had of good players. Like it's not like he's one of these high school players. Like a lot of high school players are like, oh yeah, they've always been the star, and now they have to learn how to not be the star. And I think it's not the case with Phylon, and that we can like it's very easy to see like how that manifests. But of course, he is the star now. Like he unquestionably is.
Right. It is tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to make an appointment, and with it's not the most convenient, sitting in the waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar that you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and being a real person and walking out, knowing that your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local. That's turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. So Keaton Wagler has gotten a ton of love, and rightfully so. He's been having a great season, great story, 150th or something like that in the class. No one had him as the one and done, basically, people that liked him. And now you look up, and there was a time maybe a month ago where it was like, is he going to go like fourth? He might not fourth, but people love him. I get why. The numbers have been crazy for a while. Like since since early December, it's like 25-5.
It's been pretty good all year, honestly.
But even it's like, he's a really, really interesting player in that he doesn't have the burst that guys like typically have in this rate, but he is tall, but he is long for, the archetype. Also, there's a split on him. Is he a guard? Is he more of a wing prospect? What do you make of the entire thing? Because he's obviously been awesome this year in a way that most guys are not with his profile, but it's like really interesting player type.
He is a fascinating player. I'm pretty high on him. Like, I think he's like, if a team took him at 5, I wouldn't think it was like that bad. I'm like a little lower on him than that, but I have him in that general range. Like his combination of shot making talent and decision making are pretty hard to to totally fade alongside like the excellent skill and craft. Like to some extent, to me, he's like a diet Khan. Like I feel like Khan had the same like, oh, he's not really an explosive athlete. He's not a crazy, he doesn't get blocked. He doesn't get steal. I think part of it was like Khan, I think was like the physical strength was a huge difference with Khan. And then Wagler, like I think is just worse than Khan at all of his strengths, which like no slight. Look at what Khan is doing as a rookie.
I mean, it's like Khan's like a top 5 shooter in the world right now.
I feel very vindicated for being as high as I was on him.
You should. He's been incredible.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I think that kind of that same vibe where like, yeah, his burst is underwhelming, but he's super physical. Like 50 free throw rate is kind of crazy for a player of his stature, considering he does not block shots, does not get steals, and famously has not dunked once this year. And
yeah, that's a pretty wild. It's like Caleb Houston is the Hawks guy. He's never, but he's never dunked. That's like his famous thing in the NBA is he's never dunked, and it's like
right.
It's like year 4. He's never done.
Right, it's like the guy who's like, it's like whoever has like the leaders of like most minute played with 0 at this stat or whatever.
And he's the one for dunks, I think, right now in the NBA. But anyway, obviously, I'm not comparing the two as players, obviously. But it's interesting because he's really thin, and understandably so. He's young, and he gets knocked off spots sometimes. But like the craft is, like you said, just really impressive. I have to say, I'm having trouble nailing down my eval of him.
Same,
because it's such an interesting profile. Like
there's only one like legitimate star that entered that had no dunks that had 0 dunks in college since like 2008ish, and that star would be Brad. Who's the star with no dunks?
Is it Trae Young?
It's Trae Young, right?
Right. Who is 5 inches shorter, or maybe 6 inches shorter,
as we all know, like an ultimate outlier in so many ways. And I think like. If you're gonna, to some extent, if you're gonna have that like major athletic limitation, you need to be like all-time special in terms of passing or shot making in ways that I don't think Wagler is. But Wagler is also 6'5", 6'6", so like that's a huge.
Yeah, I mean the size really helps. I mean, if he was 6'2", he wouldn't be seen the way that he is. There's just no.
I don't think he's destined to be a terrible defender either. Like he tries decently hard. I do think the strength will always be pretty limiting. Like yes, he's very young, but not all. I mean, again, we talked about Cameron Boozer. Like even like AJ DeBance. Like again, just look at all. He is like outlier skinny, even relative to his age peers, right? And like. Obviously, like I'm not an expert in terms of like the biomechanics of it, but he's just gonna have such a long way to go. But at least he's like not that quick anyways, so he could like develop into a strength creator like without losing much. I think that's kind of his path because he really does struggle to like win off the dribble. Like I think consistently has struggled to beat switches in space and to create good looks on the perimeter. Like he is. I'm looking this up right now again. Among the rookie scale consensus top 60, he is the 8th or 9th lightest player, and all of the players above, like are 6'2" or shorter. Or whatever.
Yeah, he's so
skinny. And Isaiah Evans.
Also, it's adding to the not weirdness in a bad way. But the weirdness is that the Big Ten is kind of a. I say this with love as someone who watched a lot of it. It's kind of an ugly league sometimes.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of an old school league, and Illinois is the outlier of that. Illinois is much more of an offensive team, but he's been the best player on the best offense in the Big Ten as a 19-year-old.
And again, like I feel like I've mostly been negative about him, but like I still have him top 10.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm mixed too, but then you look at the numbers and it's like, oh. 62% true shooting.
I wish I liked his passing a little. Like he's an excellent decision maker. I think that's what's unique about him is like he's so consistent in like taking his checkdowns, like taking what the defense gives him, taking the pick and pop to Ivisic or Mirkovic, or like taking the quick swing pass or taking the quick kick out pass for a corner 3 or whatever. Like he has some high level passing stuff, some passing on the move. I don't think it's as great as like a Khan, for example, or a lot of other guards in this class. Like I don't think he's like a point guard level passer like Michael or Kingston Flemings or someone like that, but definitely good enough to capitalize and is just like a nutty off dribble shooter with excellent footwork and craft and a very good handle who like, is not great at separating and getting downhill, but like draws a bunch of fouls, is crafty, and is clearly a good tough shot maker. So I think there's a good amount of ways that Wagler can end up being a pretty good NBA player. I am definitely, like you said, TBD as well. He's one where I think the combine measurements, I'm not a huge like combine guy. I think generally, what's on tape is on tape, but
measurements matter though.
For some players, you just got to see it. And I think for Wagler, it's one of those for me.
I am with you on that.
I also think he could definitely have favorable wingspan numbers too.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, and that would help his profile because of just how unathletic he is. But I like the feel. He's a guy that I'm always gonna like. I almost wish he was not seen in some circles as being a top 5 pick, because it's like if he was like gonna go 15th, I'm like, yeah, I like this guy quite a bit. Like he'd check a lot of boxes, etc. We can talk guards forever. Let's not do any more unless you want to do more guards right now, because we could forever.
I think we should at least quickly talk about Acuff.
Okay, we should do that, because Acuff has got a lot of fans.
You need the clicks.
Well, that too, but also like I think he's 9th in the initial rookie scale consensus board. So like he's got some real helium in the top 10 right now. And look, he's played really well. I mean, Arkansas has come on, and he's been part of that.
Number one most polarizing prospect on at least the draft internet.
Yeah, and I kind of get it too, because for example, I mentioned before, he's the one of these guards that like profiles as kind of a bad defender, like pretty obviously, but he also is like stronger than some of the like physically stronger than some of the like guys you were picturing. Like let's just use Trey as an example, right? Trey was always gonna be terrible defensively. There was no way around it. He was always gonna be terrible. Acuff's probably gonna be bad, I think, defensively, but he has more physical tools than Trey did.
I worry that Acuff could be like worst defender in the league tier.
I mean, he could be. I'm not saying he won't be. I'm just saying,
especially with offensive usage, the level that he projects. Like
that's the thing about like a small, and I use small guard kind of as a catch-all. He isn't that small, but in the way the league is going, he's a small guard. He's what is it, 6'2"?
He's listed at 6'3" in shoes. I would guess he's going to be probably 6'1", 6'1.5" barefoot.
And that's a small guard in the NBA.
Even 6'2" barefoot is small. Like I would be surprised if he measured over 6'2" in socks. If he did, fair enough. That's probably a win. But like, again, I mean, it's not just like he has a nice strong build, but he doesn't use it. Like, right. Like he has no functional strength on defense. Like he's not, you don't see him like absorbing blows and being physical. Like he has some of the, and again, it's hard because like, you can project like the effort and the motor to improve, but just like the fact that he like is as apathetic on defense as he is already, and doesn't have height, doesn't have wingspan, and it's not like he's one of these guys. So it's like, he doesn't really try, but like he's gonna get steals, he's gonna make plays, he's gonna be disruptive in the right moments. Like, no, Acuff is unfortunately not that guy. And I think I'm much more willing than a lot of people to like give grace to some smaller guards for their defense. But Acuff, I think Acuff is really going to test the limits of, what extent. I'd say the best player, like the best guard-sized player who got as few steals as he did was Tyrese Maxey, who I think had way more projectable defensive tools than Acuff did than Acuff does.
And I mean, and the thing about this kind of player archetype is that he has to be a star level player on offense. It's not exactly the same thing as Jeremiah Fears last year, but it's very similar to what I thought about Jeremiah Fears. It's like, if you believe in Jeremiah Fears, you believe that he has to be a star on offense.
And Fears is the example of mostly bad, but hey, he gets a ton of steals.
Right. And I get it. I'm just saying, like, archetypally,
I agree with you. I just got to defend my point.
I know, small. I mean, and I wasn't just out on Fears, but it's like, if you believe in him, you are saying he's going to have to be a star on offense, basically. Because I don't really see, and Acuff, I feel the same way about. And by the way, he might be one. He's averaging 42 points a game.
I think he could be like a useful player without being a star on offense, but to return top 10 value in a great class, I think it's going to be really tough. And like he is an elite offensive player, no doubt. Like he is an unbelievable shot maker, though. This is kind of like an outlier in terms of his high school priors, in terms of his shooting level, which is definitely at least somewhat worrying because if he's not an elite shooter, his game doesn't work because he has to generally take tough shots. I think he's gotten a little better creating easy looks, which is like the number one translation indicator I look for small guards offensively, but still is like never going to be a huge vertical threat. As good, but not like great burst or explosiveness to me. I think he's better at using his strength on offense than he is defensively. But okay, I'm also going to quickly detour and read you all of the drafted players 6'4" or less. So we're definitely being generous here with a steal rate below 1.5%. And Acuff is at 1.3%. So the list is Brandon Knight, Kyra Lewis, Tyrese Maxey, like I said, John Jenkins, Reggie Jackson, Emmanuel Quickly, who I think is an interesting approximate for Acuff, honestly. Landry Shamet, Cam Thomas, Malachi Flynn, Frank Jackson, Shelvin Mack, Armon Johnson, AJ Mitchell, but that was his freshman year, and later on in his career, he ended up getting more steals. There's nobody else really notable. And if you like bump it up to like 2% steal rate, you can always p-hack the queries and, get to Jalen Brunson or whoever. But point being, like the statistical history at least is not on his side. And again, like people, it's like, oh, Brunson wins in similar ways. Well, yeah, Brunson is an extreme outlier. And yeah, I think maybe at his ultimate, I don't know. I can't in good conscience project Acuff to have a Brunson kind of ceiling. Like Brunson is like a top 4, top 5 offensive player in the NBA at his peak. I just don't think Brunson's ever going to have the kind of scoring. And like, he's a good passer to me, but not like special, like very good assist to turnover ratio. But I think a lot of these guys who like to shoot and have good like turnover numbers because of that kind of get overinflated in terms of people's like vision of their passer. And like Acuff's a great pick and roll passer. His accuracy on lob passes is phenomenal. But yeah, definitely don't think he's on the level of like Michael or Kingston or Sturts or whoever.
No, I think I think he's like a late lottery guy. I don't mean that that's not a negative evaluation.
All that being said, I have him like 15th on my board, and
that's what I'm saying. Like, so
cool, and I'm still cool with him because I think, even if like again in that mid-first round range, I think it's way easier for me to stomach a player who like maybe he's not going to be the most valuable guy deep into the playoffs. Like, yeah, he's going to be a useful, helpful offensive player in the league. I'm pretty confident in saying that.
Yeah, he's really buttoned up. Like he can run a pick and roll very well. Like he's averaging 22 and 6 in the SEC. Like a lot of usage, but like that's real. He's been efficient.
Right. At some point, I mean his statistical production is pretty historic for his age.
Yeah.
And his height. And like I don't dismiss that. I mean, like I don't value that as much as some people do, maybe on like draft Twitter. But I do think like the age adjusted dominance and production does really matter. And obviously, that's only offensive dominance, right? But still, and that's what we're projecting.
Yeah, and if you're going to have a spot where you have a shaky defender, that's the spot. You could get away with it probably the easiest as someone who covered the entire training experience in Atlanta. There's nothing like being in the NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, it's not always been the most simple or pleasurable part of the process. That's why Gametime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without any of the hassle. Puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. You can pull the Gametime app right now, pick an upcoming NBA game, and have tickets locked in within just minutes. At Gametime, they have prices all in up front, which I absolutely love to see. No surprise fees at the end of the checkout process. Also, you can see the views from the seats actually before you buy the tickets. That makes the decision easy, and you know exactly what you're going to get into when you get to the venue. And they have great last-minute options at Gametime as well. NBA tickets show up at solid prices just before tip-off actually occurs. Everything feels quick. It feels intuitive. It feels stress-free from start to finish. So the guess we're going to buy NBA tickets right now with the folks at the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That code is LOCKEDON. That code is LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. And remember, it's gametime.co. not gametime.com. One more time, the code is locked on for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today. Okay, let's go maybe a smorgasbord from this point forward. I want to ask you about Nate Ament because he was the guy coming into the year that was like mostly the number 4 on a lot of boards, and he had this big fall, right? And now he's come back up slowly but surely throughout the course of the season for a lot of people. And he's played really well in the last, 2 months.
Is Travis Schlenk still employed? Whoever employs him is drafting Nate Ament.
Travis is in the Wizards organization.
All right. Washington Wizards, you are Nate Ament.
So I'm asking that because there's a split on him again. So he was like in the 20s for a while, and now he's back in the top 10 for a lot of people. I don't think you're quite that high on him, but what do you think of Nate Ament?
I think I came into this season with expectations similar to consensus, but I very quickly realized that wasn't the case. I think sometimes you can just tell. And Ament, well, still good. Again, I think I've been like very similar range to Acuff, like just in terms of where I have him on my board. But yeah, I mean, these like gigantic shooters are always going to have like I think like he often gets, it's like, oh, this is like such a high ceiling, like boomer bust player. When I'm like, no. It's like, it's like, where does the ceiling come from? Where does the star stuff come from? Like, he's not an advantage creator. I think he's a decidedly low field player. I think his defense has been quite poor this year. And then all of that being said, he is a 6'10" dude with an awesome shooting profile who can kind of dribble and is a decent strength creator and can project to improve there. So like, I think if you're drafting Nate Ament, I would guess he probably ends up as a useful player. But again, I think like maybe you can project him to improve on defense, but he's already, to me, lost a good amount of mobility and quickness and spryness since high school because he's clearly added weight. That's helped him in terms of foul drawing and driving. Like it's obvious just looking at 2 pictures of him. But I think it's already had negative impacts, clear negative impacts to me on his defense. And obviously that could continue. I mean, of course, like NBA strength and conditioning will help, but like he's at Tennessee. So
yep.
In terms of just like getting strong, I feel like that's as close to gold standard as you're going to get, right? Like
pretty much shots to Admiral Schofield.
But yeah, he's getting hard Risa share comps right now. I don't know if you
I almost brought that up. I decided against it, but yeah, I don't think that the Hawks will be the Nate Ament team. I don't think that's gonna.
Kind of shocking that Schlenk didn't stick around to draft Risa. Like it's so perfect. It really is the spiritual successor to DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, AJ Griffin.
Yeah, it's there's.
And I do unfortunately believe that Ament is kind of in that NPC wing mold, but like it's not like he's a bad player or anything. I think there's a lot of ways that he can contribute, and it's always easy to find slots for giant guys who shoot. Like it's always going to be valuable to space the floor and to bring size. But again, I see that more as like a mid first round. Like I think if you're a contender and you really trust your developmental infrastructure and you want to take him in the late first, I'd get it. Like if the Spurs or something took him in the late first, I think that's a good like long-term Harrison Barnes replacement type player, or Keldon Johnson type player. Complementary wing can definitely be useful, but I think people see like tall shooting wing. And again, I think a lot of people are learning their lesson with the Risa Share and Jabari Smith and all these players and, Ace Bailey, right? I think Ament definitely can break out of that mold, but like it is definitely more in that group of, I think, good role player projections with definitely some real utility on good teams, but like definitely don't see it in terms of like and again, in a different draft, sure.
Yeah, no, I get it too. I think I'm going to have him probably somewhere in the late lottery and
totally fine.
Not crazy in this class. Okay, I have to ask you about some bigs because the Hawks are going to be in the market for one, whether they drop one or not. They're in the market for one. I will save number one. The question I have for you the most is about a player that you and I share a love for. So we'll save that for a second.
Do you want to talk about Michigan guys or?
That's the problem is that I don't want to be branded as a Michigan apologist. I will say,
I mean, it can be my decision because I love all of the Michigan.
It's funny because everyone knows I'm a Michigan fan, not everyone, but people assume that means I like every Michigan prospect, which is not true. I was actually quite low on Caleb Houston as a prospect, for example. I was way out on Jett Howard, Like Tim Hardaway Jr. I was not a big fan of 10 years ago. So I'm not just married to Michigan prospects. In fact,
I don't recall you being a huge Danny Wolf guy.
I was not a Danny Wolf guy at all. I'm not that it was like I wasn't like totally out, but thank you for helping me. So when I say that, I'm very high on Mora and I'm very high on Morez. Now, I'm not that high on Yaxel. I think Yaxel is a first round pick for sure, but like I think he's like 10th on the consensus board, and I would not. That's too high for me. I'm lower on. He's gonna be 24 like this summer.
I'm fascinated to see where he goes because I think some mainstream mocks have had him like a little later in the first round, even though like consensus is you have seen him in the late lottery. He is interesting. I like him probably more than you do, just from like the quickly hearing. I get that like he probably is like a little less interesting to me than Morez and Mara.
Yeah, I'm not even saying that he's like definitively behind those guys. I just think that people are maybe ignoring that he's literally going to be 24 like that.
I just think it's such like it's just such like a difference in need and timeline, right? Like I think if you're like the Thunder picking at 8, and you know, I guess imagine a world where they don't have infinite resources to do literally whatever they want. Like, and you got to make this pick count. And you're like, oh, we could really use a big forward who kills it on the glass, makes plays on defense, rocks in transition, is a great passer. Sure, but like, yeah. But like, what use are the Kings going to have for Yaxel, right?
And I will
also not even consider him in like their top 20. So like it
defend Yaxel
varies
a little bit too.
So much.
Yaxel's also been asked to play the 3 like all year, and that's not his best position. Because
no, but I think I've appreciated him showing that like.
Oh, I agree.
You need him to, and if you need him to, I think he can. Even if
he can play there. It's just that Michigan has both Mora and Morez, and they're like, hey, let's play our best players, and it's totally the right decision in college level.
Yeah.
I just think that's interesting too. So I'm not trying to bury Yaxel. I just wanted to give the bona fides to say I don't just love every Michigan player. With that said, I love Morez. Morez, like I have an irrational love for Morez. I have to say, you're actually higher on Mora than I am, even though I like Mora. Yeah. Mora's your guy, I think.
I do love Mora. I liked him a lot at UCLA. I mean, he or before he went to UCLA as a freshman, and then he was pretty good last year and just limited minutes. And I remember like he was getting some hype, but I think his first was the Wake Forest game the first Michigan game of the year, or it was one of the. It was definitely their first like game. It was definitely their first game against like a real opponent,
a real team. Yeah,
that I know for sure.
Yeah, no, they played Oakland first, so it was their first real game after that.
Yeah. Based on like I've been like doing this like big grading projects where I chart all the plays prospects make in pretty much every game, and that Mara game against Wake Forest is still like the best game of the cycle. It was literally the first one, and like nobody's topping it. It was so good. And from that moment on, I'm like, okay, this guy's different because he's clearly improved in ways that matter. Like his movement skills have improved. I think he's better playing out towards the level of the screen than he used to be. And I think he's improved throughout the year as a decision maker. Like he was turning the ball over like crazy earlier in the year. He still kind of does, but like I think he's always going to be.
His passing rocks though.
Passing. He's always going to be like kind of a high touch time player, but I think that's a feature, not a bug necessarily, because he can just do things when you give him the ball and have him hold it up here and just wait for him to make stuff happen. He very often makes stuff happen. So like. He's just such a rare combination of paint defense, rim protection, and playmaking. And like the scoring is the issue. You can't make free throws. But I think
it's been better lately. Just saying, it's been a little better lately.
Let's get above 60% and then we'll talk.
I know. I'm with you. No, I'm kind of being funny, but I really do like Mora and. Look, there's
it's kind of fun watching these like because like normally when I'm watching tape I check out during free throws. It's like whatever. But if I'm like watching a guy who can't make free throws, I'm like, come on.
It's like come on, make this.
Come on, get it. And then he gets it.
Like, and Mara's I think he's the tallest guy in the class. 7'3", maybe Kribos is close.
Is he the tallest on my board? Yeah. The only player I have ranked taller is Daniel Jacobson, who's a Purdue freshman. He's not going to get drafted until 2029 or whatever.
And honestly, the other guy who's like clearly bigger than 7 feet is Kribos from Arizona, who's like I also like as like a defensive anchor backup center type. Mara's upside's higher, I think, because his offense is more real. But no, I also there's
Malachi Moreno is a 7-footer, but he's not going to get drafted. I like him a lot, but he's not going to get drafted this year. Like
I saw him on your board. I was like, that's quite aggressive. I'm wrong. Malachi Moreno. I'm not against it.
He's so good. I'm so ready to stand behind that. But I'm not going to have to because he's not going to declare. So like it's like whatever. I'll just keep him here for now.
Mara's kind of my dream Cavs pick target for the Hawks because I think he actually could be available in the 20s. I don't know if he will be, but it's like possible that I could see that happening.
I think even if not, though, it's a good center class.
No, and that's why I'm bringing it up now. I make sure we got to it at the end because, again, just like with the guards, I'll just list a lot of names. You got Jaden Quaintance is a kind of a question mark. He's been hurt a lot, but a guy that everybody likes near the top. Then you've got Mara, you've got Steinbach, you've got Ngangba. You've got who else is there? Merez and Mara. I'm missing somebody.
I'll just read it off my list. I have like in that lottery-ish range, Quaintance, Mara, and Steinbach, Gongba, Moreno. I thought Merez, Vesar at North Carolina.
Vesar.
Awesome player. I go back and forth on him versus Krivas. Maybe it's like they're both Arizona guys. But
yeah,
I think Vesar is like the rare stretch 5 prospect that's like also a real big. I mean, it's like most of these guys, it's like, oh yeah, he's like tall and shoots threes, but he's obviously not a center. Whereas
it's very I think he's very Hawksy. Honestly.
I agree. I like him a lot in Atlanta. Actually, I actually really like that fit. I think any of the Giant centers, like I think Krivas is awesome. I think Ruben Chinyelu is a little below 7 feet tall, but has like I think I remember him comparing like very similar to like Biombo measurement.
Yeah,
like,
he's definitely an adult like backup center.
He is center size. Yeah. I don't think you're gonna have like you're not gonna be like we need to play another big next to him if he's good. And there's also there's a lot of like tiny bigs in this draft like Flory.
Merez is a kind of a tiny big.
Merez, but I think he has way more wing equity.
He does. I'm just saying like he's mostly a 6'9" big at the moment.
Morez to me is kind of like what I wish Flory was. Like he actually has a little like a little shooting range. He's a little taller, and I think just has more like functional big man skills on offense.
Well, he also can shoot free throws. He's got a pretty nice stroke. The rebounding, the defense. I could argue he's been Michigan's best defender this year, even with Mara on the team.
I did a mock draft on my channel the other day, and I had Merez in the lottery.
Not crazy to me.
I think he's genuinely my like.
He's the one guy I will admit I am. There's some bias there. I have
in my like film like grades that I've mentioned, which are like PFF-ish inspired. I have Mara and Merez both as top 5 defensive guys this year, just based on their tape. And I
wish he was a better fit with the Hawks because I don't think the Hawks.
Yeah, the Hawks aren't really a Merez fit.
The Hawks don't really want another 6'9" big.
I think they already have Mo Gay.
They've got Mo. They got a Kongwu. Like they don't really need. If they want to go their next center edition.
I like Merez way more than I liked Asa.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, but I was low on Asa. But also,
I like Asa fine. I think he's been
another big I like who is an unlikely declare is Masamba Diop at Arizona State. Has legit 7-footer size, is very skilled, has great touch, but he's one of the only guys in this draft who I haven't seen a confirmed birth date for.
I saw Brian's also very high on him. As well. I trust Brian too. So if you and Brian are on the same page, I'm like, all right.
Good. Yeah, he's just a good player, and like nobody's watching Arizona State this year because why would you? But like, he's just an interesting player. Like he's super ground bound, super skinny, like long, gangly, moves pretty well, and like will like he will try wild stuff on offense, like with his handle. Clearly, like has that like guard background. I don't know if he's played guard. It looks like he wanted to or thought he did, but yeah, can really move. I think has some impressive flexibility as well. Can like get low and get in his stance. He's just like soft and can't jump, and the physicality and this is all a much lesser concern if he is like 19 or 20. But if he's Bartorvik has him at like 19.7, which if true would be great. I don't know, but another one who's almost certainly not going to declare for the draft this year. So we're not going to have to really think about that until the future.
Yeah, I saw Vicini refer to him as a pretty obvious transfer guy, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. And like, there's so many good small bigs. Like, I love Steinbach. I like even the second round. Like, I like Zubi Ejiofor at St. John's. He's a quality player. Nate Biddle is always injured and super old at Oregon, but he's super talented.
Nate, I feel like he has been around forever, and maybe I'm just misremembering how
he has. But he's had like multiple serious long-term injuries.
Yeah.
Which is why he's going to be like a 24 plus year old rookie. But yeah, he's been around forever. But like, he's been good. He's been like a good player since he was a sophomore, pretty much. So like, it's not like he hasn't been a good player. He just like hasn't been, on NBA radars and hasn't been healthy.
And before I forget to say this, I think my favorite Yaxel thing, and by the way, it's obviously kind of a joke. He's actually older than Alex Karaban, and Alex Karaban is like my age. So,
just like, wait a second.
I'm almost 40, Ben. I'm old.
I was gonna say. I mean, I know Alex Karaban is old, but
he's just been there forever. So,
I'm not a Karaban guy.
I know.
I was talking to my buddy who I tweeted like my differences between like the rookie scale consensus, and it's like, you're really out on all of these like slow shooter wings, like Karaban, Darion Williams, Milan Momcilovic. Like, yeah, I guess I really don't like super slow like shooting wings. So
yeah, that's not terribly shocking. We're gonna do this again, and I'll ask about all kinds of different players. If you have, I know Mara is a guy that you have a big gap on compared to consensus. Is there anybody else you want to mention that you're like in on your guys before we get out of here?
Yeah. So the other guys I'm high. So I think we talked about most of them. Moreno, I Kentucky center. I didn't think I said that. He's just like a super sick athlete who can pass and is skilled. I briefly mentioned Ibuka Corey, who's another guy who's almost certainly like a transfer return to school, but has clear NBA talent as a scorer. Juke Harris, Wake Forest wing. I am a big fan of him. He has like an interesting combination of size. He's like 6'6", 6'7", high volume movement shooting, like off screens, heavy, tough pull-ups, but also being like explosive and physical and a good driver. So he's been pretty excellent this year. High usage, fairly efficient, explosive player, tries hard on defense. So he's going to be someone who, like, I think if he declares, he is a good bet to be like, how is this guy in the top 20 all of a sudden on Jonathan Gavoni's mock draft? And it's like, well, he was always kind of in that area. But another wing that I love that I'm pretty above consensus on is Cameron Carr at Baylor, who I don't hate all wings. I just need my wings to like do more stuff than shoot spot up threes and run slow. I mean, Cam Carr is so explosive.
That's a great quote, by the way. I don't hate all wings, says Ben Pfeifer.
I don't. I absolutely don't hate all wings. Like there's some people who are like, ew, wings, like it's a guards and bigs league, and I do get that to some extent, but like,
you still need them though. Everybody wants them.
I don't really care what you call him. I like players who are good at shooting threes, explosive, and block shots, and like that's what Cameron Carr is. I wish he was like a freshman doing what he's doing. This is like effectively his like first real year getting like starter level minutes, because he went to Link Academy and was like a pretty well liked high school prospect. And then he didn't play. He barely played as a freshman at Tennessee. As a sophomore, had a season-ending injury early in the year. So like his 21-year-old season is his first college season, which is like clouds the profile a little bit, because it's like, yeah, this is kind of always what I believed Cam Carr had in him. But obviously it's a kind of a red flag at times if players are, just totally breaking out of nowhere as 21, 22-year-olds. But I think Carr has enough like extenuating circumstances where it's not like it was because of like ability necessarily, but like his combination of again 10 threes per 100 at 38%, 4.1% block rate, like that is just an extremely rare combination of statistical indicators and just like basketball skills. Like how many players are there in the league who are like high level off movement shooters, like who can legit sprint from screens, and Carr has like the most audacious shooting range. He is addicted to pulling from like 40 feet, and sometimes I think he should chill, but ultimately I'd much rather have a guy like that and rein him back in than the other way around.
Than not.
He's so talented as a shot maker, and like probably never going to be a creator. Like feels not that great. Like I think especially in terms of like when he has to make unscripted reads. Like I think he's had a bunch of like empty side pick and rolls this year. Like, you know, you just like send two at him because he's the only real scoring threat. Also, that Baylor context is unfavorable for him.
Yeah, it's
we'll definitely say that.
A weirdly bad Baylor team.
Another one of these teams that was like, hey, let's go get some failed G League or international player to come play center for us, which has not gone well. James Najee has been extremely poor. And they don't really have guards. Like their only like real guard is Isaac Williams, who transferred from some really small school that I'm not remembering. And like he's like a scoring point guard. And then all of their guys are like wings or forwards. This is kind of like the all wings team, honestly. Like Yesufu, Cam Carr, Dan Skilling is a wing from Cincy transfer. Michael Rataj is like a wingish type stretch big. But Cameron Carr is, I think, the real gem there. Even though I think I am more in line now with where Yesufu is consensus wise. I'm still lower, but like when he was getting like top 10 buzz, I thought that was wild.
I could see him
like
late first.
And late first, I think is even a little rich for me, but like I get it. He's very toolsy and probably will shoot. And again, he's not slow. He has plenty of other problems, but he's not slow. Holy hell, is he not slow?
Not slow.
Holy hell, is he not slow? Like that guy. He's someone. Actually, Yesufu is another one of like most likely to shoot up after empty gym workouts. Like he is unbelievable in just like a 1-on-0 setting. Just like watching him move with the basketball, like it's pretty. It's very impressive. Like he's another one of these guys where it's like if you just like throw on the highlight tape of his best plays, you probably like him a lot more than you should.
That makes sense. Well, Ben, thank you for all the time as always. We'll do this again closer to the big day, maybe post ladder or something.
I was going to tell you, we pretty much only talked about like first round players, which
I know we got more to do.
It's because there's 45 of those guys this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of table setting to be done, but maybe we'll do a multi-part or something later on and dig into some of the sicko stuff that we like to talk about at the end of the draft. By the way, before we get out of here, where can folks find all your work? I know you got YouTube and all kinds. So plug it all.
I'm on Twitter at BJPF_. I'm on YouTube, just my name, Ben Pfeifer. Gonna just keep posting NBA draft content. Keep up with all of whatever random projects or stuff that I'm doing. But yeah, as always, thanks for having me on, and I'm excited to do it again.
It's my pleasure as always, and thank you for doing this. As for everybody else, subscribe to this podcast. Check out Ben's work, which is again fantastic across the board. You probably get a sense of that listening to this, but more of that, I promise you. Ben's a sicko in the best possible way. So stay tuned, everybody, and we'll see you all next time.